you know Donald Trump, do you really think he's good or bad?
You guys don't know this, but he's a good friend. And most people don't like the arrogance, and I'll call it confidence.
Conoce a Mark Shapiro, un veterano de bienes raíces y mentor. Ha administrado miles de propiedades y crecido su patrimonio a los millones desde la temprana edad de 26 años.
I don't see how someone can build an empire like they did 30 years ago. I think the market has shifted.
Well, that's a good point, but I'm going to disagree with you. It wouldn't matter. I could lose everything tomorrow. Give me 60 days and I'll have $1 million in the bank. By the time I graduated college, and I was worth well over $1 million.
How do you decide to focus on the really greatest opportunity at the moment?
Data. It's all based on data. You have to understand how to interpret data. You do not need to leverage your deals. When you are trying to come up, if you calculate it properly and if you use the right data, you're always going to win.
Where the big question is, should I rent or should I buy?
Antes de iniciar este podcast, si te interesa invertir en acciones que paguen dividendos y que tengan excelentes retornos como Apple, Google, Tesla e incluso aprender day trading para encontrar oportunidades en el día a día, agenda una llamada en el link justo acá debajo para que uno de nuestros asesores académicos pueda guiarte en tu nuevo futuro financiero. Ahora sí, iniciemos con el podcast.
Hola a todos, bienvenidos a este nuevo episodio de Trade Talks. El día de hoy, desde la ciudad de Miami, tenemos que hacer un disclaimer bien rápido. Nuestro host, Winston, hoy se encuentra enfermo, o sea que estoy hoy acompañado de Carlos, Ernesto y Mark. Ernesto, ¿qué tú estás esperando de tu podcast que tenemos el día de hoy?
Básicamente es el primer podcast en la ciudad de Miami, una de las ocasiones que tenemos el honor de conocer con grandes empresarios del mundo sus grandes historias de éxito. Y lo interesante de venir a Estados Unidos es que las historias de éxito son normalmente de más de $100 millones. La de Mark es mucho más grande de ahí todavía, o sea que lo que vamos a estar viendo en este episodio es fenomenal. Mark, thanks for coming. How are you?
Every day
blessed.
You wake up, you got to say thank you to God, and every day you can do something the right way, you can do something the wrong way. You need to choose the right way.
So, chicos y chicas, para que sepan, este podcast del día de hoy va a ser en inglés. Ojo. Y yo creo que te pasó lo mismo a ti, Ernesto, y lo mismo a ti, Carlos. La mayoría del contenido que ustedes pueden consumir no siempre va a estar en su idioma. Yo creo que es muy importante que nosotros veamos cómo personas de culturas diferentes y de mercados diferentes hacen negocio y que nosotros podamos tomar eso y llevarlo a los negocios nuestros. Entonces, el día de hoy este podcast va a estar totalmente subtitulado. Acá abajo tú vas a tener toda la información traducida, así que vamos a agregar valor. Mark, just had to make that disclaimer that we were going to switch to English before our audience just runs.
The switching to English is great. We also have our school in Spanish.
Oh, you do?
Oh, that's great.
We also have our school in Spanish. Do we still run our school in Spanish? We really never got any traction from it. We tried getting traction, remember, in Mexico?
That's a hard market.
I think we got a handful of students. Chris did the transliteration and he did the translation in with AI, and the AI voice actually sounded just like me.
Oh, did it?
He was much handsomer, though.
What year was that?
This past year.
Yeah,
We've only been doing this since the end of April of last year.
Yeah, because AI has been like growing so fast that if you told me, oh, I did this with AI in December, like today in May, it's probably obsolete. For
Every 6 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every 6 months. And then it'll be every 90 days.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's a little scary for somebody who's
I think it's very
turning
scary.
65 on Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
I got my Medicare card in the mail. You guys know what Medicare is.
That's the official retirement
I
age.
collect Social Security. Well, I retired at 37, but then I came back out of retirement a year later because I found, number one, I was bored. Playing golf 5 days a week wasn't cutting it for me. And when I tried to do my own equity in the deals, and I picked 4 other developers, they all sucked, and I all had to take the projects over and finish the projects. to protect my equity in the
So I
deals.
think it's important for people to know, Mark, because you just mentioned developer, you said equity, but maybe some of our audience still don't know you. So let's take it back a little bit. You said you retired at 37 and then you came back. That's a milestone. I mean, I wasn't born probably, or I was about to be born
When
when
were
you
you
were
born?
37. I'm 31, so I was right.
No,
I
you
was
were
probably
like
a
two,
year or 2
you were like
years
2,
old,
3.
right? So what were you into when you were 37? What have you started and finished? And how did that allow you to retire that young? Because 37 is crazy. I mean, the average millionaire, the average American makes $1 million about 40 years old. Like when they turn 40. By 37, you had retired. So how did that start? Or was that the start that allowed you to retire? Or was there something else that allowed you to get there afterwards?
So I bought my first deal going into my junior year in college.
Real estate deal.
Real estate deal, yeah. My freshman year in college, and then I came here and spent the summer working for my uncles, who took over my grandfather's real estate business here in Coral Gables. And I worked for them in the daytime, and then I figured out how to teach myself how to bartend, and then I got a bartending job. I just walked into a cowboy bar and I got a bartending job all the way. Do you know Miami at all?
Yes.
So all the way south on 152nd, which is Coral Reef Drive.
It's like almost...
That's like Pinecrest,
Yeah, that's like...
right?
Yeah.
Way past. Way past.
Wow.
So
That's like Mexican
right before
territory, right?
Florida City, which was pretty much destroyed during Hurricane Andrew. That was 92. You guys weren't born.
I was born in 92.
92. Okay.
Then you're old.
So I got that job, and then I started selling towels and T-shirts at the flea market in Hialeah, up on Northwest 136th Street. And I took a year off. I took all that money. I learned a little bit about real estate. Had a really cool car made by a place on the Dixie Highway called the Z Shop. I think it was on 136, kind of near a mall named the Falls. I don't know if it's even still there. Still there?
Yes,
The
the
Falls.
Falls.
I mean, I just went to Dayland the other day. Actually, I just went to the best barbecue place I've ever been to in my whole life.
Really?
And we've had 10,000 units in the state of Texas, and I'll stop at every little barbecue dive on the side of the street. And this place is called Apocalypse Barbecue.
Shout out to Apocalypse Barbecue.
Their barbecue was insane. And we went in there, and it was actually a second date with a really nice Bolivian girl. And they're like, well, there are no tables. And I was like, oh, So we got beers, and we sat outside, and we were waiting because we put our name in. And this guy came over to me, and he said, do you do social media? And it keeps on happening because this is kind of weird. Not really comfortable with it. I'm getting comfortable. And I said, yeah. And he said, hold on. And 5 minutes later, we had a table. And the food was insane. And we closed the restaurant down. But going back to your question, so I did that. I drove the car back.
How much did you save?
I saved around 65 grand.
65 grand?
Yeah, 1983.
But hold on. So you went...
Wow.
So
1982.
you were in college.
Mm-hmm.
You come down here for the summer. You start working on the family business that had just been passed on. But you mentioned you went to the flea market.
So I was selling towels and T-shirts in the flea market on Saturdays and Sundays from 6 a.m. till 1 on Saturday and Sunday. Then I was bartending Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I was working for my uncles during the week. And my uncles were teaching me the real estate business. So I was actually able to make a few little deals on some of the deals that they did. And I left with about 65 grand. I spent 25 on the car. And I never worried about spending money because I always knew I could make it pretty easy. And I went back to Connecticut with about $40,000.
So what were those type of deals that your family did back in those days?
So back in those days, they were building a lot of new construction down in Homestead.
Okay.
And what I was doing was they would have people come in the daytime in the sales center. And if they couldn't get financing, I would convince my uncle to give them a bridge. and then I would find somebody. My uncle had a list of investors to buy the bridge at a higher price.
Oh, wow.
So I guess that's flipping in a way.
Yeah.
But we would package the loan with 3 documents. That's it. So I would make, some days I'd make a $1,500 hit. And some weeks I wouldn't do anything. But all I was doing was getting the package, and then I would dial for dollars for them.
And that's what I want to learn from you today. Is because like I think a lot of people think real estate and they think about just buying the house and flipping it to a higher price. And there's like such a deep world of deals that you can do, because that type of deal you're telling me is like you're not even touching the construction. It's just like
No.
Sounds like debt
There was
structuring, right?
there
Like you're
was-
structuring a future debt.
Yeah, there was one, I'll never forget this. There was one deal, and I didn't know how to do it, but I learned, okay? And my uncle said, well, I want you to figure it out, because the guy, he wanted to have somebody, a friend of his, buy a portion of the debt, and he wanted to sell the other portion of the debt to an investor. And I'm like, oh, how do you do that? And we were able to write the note and write the way the debt was and the mortgage so that it spelled it out. And I learned that you could actually split up the payment stream. You could split up the principal down, pay down. You can do anything if it's articulated properly with proper counsel.
What year was that?
1982.
So interest rates were like crazy those
So
days.
interest rates were, this was
Above
post,
12%.
No, more.
More.
This was post Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Inflation was crazy.
Interest rates were in the 16 to 17% rate.
and people think they're high now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And do you think nowadays?
Worst president ever.
Yeah, Carter.
Jimmy Carter?
A great guy, smart as they say he wasn't really. He passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to
That's
say
what
that.
Recently, yeah.
They say he was not that nice of a guy, but very smart man, just not a great president.
Do you think you can replicate those kind of deals nowadays?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yep.
At paper, it's the greatest business there is. You know what a tape is?
No.
Okay, so a tape is when we get from either private lender or from Freddie or Fannie a tape of mortgages. I could show you, my computer's in the car, I could show you it. And that tape has the debt, the default rate, the interest carry on it, and then it has a suggested price. So we got a tape of 53 loans the other day from one of my students, and he asked me would I buy it with him. And I said, well, let's go through the tape and find the very best. So we found 3. One's in Boynton Beach, one is here in Miami, townhome, and then one is all the way in Connecticut, it's a high-end town called West Simsbury in Connecticut. So we know what the price on it is, and the combined debt is about $1.5 million. And
For the 3 properties?
for the 3 properties, and we offer 22 cents on the dollar for the
Okay.
$1.5 million.
So
Now,
for those who don't know, and I think it will be good for you to explain that, Mark, and I'm sorry if I interrupt you. What does that mean, buying a property at 22 cents on the dollar? Because a lot of people probably don't know that you're buying at a discount. So can you explain that?
we're buying the debt, the paper.
The debt,
so the
of
paper
course.
is mortgage and note. Okay, that's how all mortgages are done, through paper. Yeah. You sign papers. Now you sign them on DocuSign. Back in the olden days, we used to sign them with a pen. And so this has about $1.5 million of accrued debt from the owners of the home. They're all vacant. They've all left. And the debt is the default rate, and accelerates. It goes from whatever the normal interest rate was to what's called a default rate. Sometimes it can be pretty high, 25, 26%. Depends on each state, because there are usury laws. It can't be a usurious rate. And then all the fees to manage the property by whoever the lender is. And what happens is these deals are deteriorating. So Freddie and Fannie, they put them out in bulk, and investors look at them like me, and sometimes you can pick and choose. This is not an all or nothing tape. Most of them are all or nothing. This was not, so that's why we cherry picked it. And we submitted our offer on Thursday, and we'll see whether we have to come up. We'll probably get it somewhere in the 30 cents on the dollar. So we'll pay about $4.50 for the deals. The deal in Connecticut needs about $175,000 worth of rehab. The deal in Boynton needs about 75, and the deal here needs about 75. So we'll be into the deals for somewhere north of about 700. And then the value of the assets on a normal retail sale is somewhere between $2 to $2.5 million. Now, those aren't my kinds of deals because I'm in the multifamily space and we do the same thing in multifamily. But this is a student of mine who joined one of our higher level programs. And he's a very astute guy. And I've actually asked him to relocate here and come work for us. Because now we're building out a separate business to do more acquisitions. Because we see that the market is deteriorated terribly because of the last financial crisis and the way they changed the bank laws during the Dodd-Frank Act. You familiar with Dodd-Frank?
I am.
Okay, so
Can you explain?
So Dodd-Frank is a law that after President Obama, I know a lot of people who may be Republicans don't really like Obama, but he actually did something amazing by rescuing the banks. Because today we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yes.
In 08?
Yeah, in 08. Under the great financial crisis, the whole world would be very different. The way we look at money would completely be different had he not done that, okay? So for people who criticize him, I think they should really look at themselves and how they've prospered because of that. What he did do was he made the banks not accountable anymore. So what's happened is you had 08 to 2010, all of the papers start to shift and all the bad deals start to shift, and then they started to get rid of it. So you had a major run up from 2010 to 2015 where all the major funds and, like BlackRock and all...
Blackstone.
Vanguard,
Blackstone.
all these guys.
Blackstone. I always get BlackRock and Blackstone mixed up. Blackstone, my guys at Goldman, and then J.P. Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo, and all the major, not banks, but the major brokerage sides of the bank, the broker dealers. And then all these other broker dealers that have billions of dollars. Funds started buying these distressed assets, and I think Innovation Homes is Blackstone,
Yep.
and I think they have probably 100, maybe to 200,000. Oh, Barry Sternlich's Barry's firm.
Yeah.
Okay, Starwood, and I'm actually really friendly with his brother, who's an anesthesiologist in Boston, Andrew. So all this happened. This great transfer of wealth. And then there were all little guys like me that, got the little crumbs. And so we were able to buy paper on apartment deals. And because of Dodd-Frank, that was Barry Frank, who was a senator in Mass, and Chris Dodd, who was a senator in Connecticut. They made the banking laws a little different. Prior to the great financial crisis, you, as a bank, had to do what's called mark your assets to market. When you mark your assets to market, so let's say you do a $20 million loan as a bank, and the deal goes bad, and the true value is marked to the market value of it. So let's say it's 10. So the $10 million loan that you made goes against your net capital. That net capital you have to reserve for. Net capital is what banks borrow against to lend. So that would skinny down their balance sheet so they couldn't lend. Banks are in the business of making loans, okay? So once this happened, they came up with the idea of Dodd-Frank, and that loosened it. So now banks don't do that. So we're seeing somewhere between $3 and maybe $4 trillion of toxic deals on the bank. And one of the reports that just came out from the new Trump administration was in FHA and I'm pivoting to single family, but an FHA first-time home buyers program, the Biden administration has rolled over on defaulted first-time home buyers over 1.5 million loans. And what they did is they took the interest where people weren't paying and they tacked it onto the back. So it's a deferred and accrued onto the back of the loan. So we're going to see a wave of this stuff. We're seeing deals in Wynwood starting to come unglued. We're seeing deals in Midtown. We're seeing deals all over the place. We're overbuilt here in downtown Miami, and we're going to keep on building. Okay?
You said we're overbuilt and we're going to keep on building.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you can still borrow money.
Okay.
And as a greedy developer, if I can borrow money, I'm going to build it.
Got it. Okay, so let
But
me ask
before
you
that, Carlos, hold that for a
Because we're all
second.
greedy. We all like
Yeah.
money.
We all like money. And the reason why I
So-
want a second is because we cut off from that summer that you came down to Miami and you made $65,000.
So I
Now,
go
you know,
back.
You mentioned, I want to go back to
college.
that.
I go back to college.
So hold that there, Carlos, for a second.
I go back to college. My mom was a commercial real estate broker. I tell my mom that I'm ready to do some real estate. And she said, okay, I want you to read this book. I'm like, well, what's a book got to do with real estate? She said, just read the book. And the book was called Nothing Down by a guy named Robert G. Allen. And if today you guys don't know who he is, he's the godfather of every single real estate program. Everyone, Tom Cruise, Grant Cardone, everyone. He is the founder and the father of creative financing. He taught everybody.
He's like a Benjamin Graham of
Exactly.
investments.
Exactly. And he started doing this in the late 70s. Okay. And he happens to be my mentor and my friend. Yep.
Still alive?
He is. He is. He just turned 77. He just had his birthday the other day. He's in, where's he in? Vietnam, Chris? Robert was in Vietnam speaking? They was in Vietnam because he was supposed to be on the calls with our group because he hops on the calls with my students and he just loves to talk to them.
What's the greatest lesson you learned from him?
Wow. I learned a lot of stuff from him.
What did you learn when you first read that book? So your mom gave you an advice, read this book before you come into the business. What did you learn there and why was your mom guiding you through that route?
So the book gave you every possible concept of how to buy real estate without having any money. And they work today. That's the crazy thing.
How does it work? In the simplest way.
Creative financing. So today you would call it subject to. So subject to is assuming debt, is typically a distressed deal, or in a lot of situations, we look for seller financing. But we don't look for seller financing as a first, we look for it as a second. And that seller financing as a second becomes the equity. And most banks will allow it as if you get a subordination agreement, which means I'm second to the first. And you just have to have the people who are holding the mortgage sign off on it.
Can you explain that so Carlos is a big real estate guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm less off of it. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that to me and for anyone that is taking a look at us right now? How does that work? Simple, really terms.
So simple terms, you buy a property for $100,000. Typical bank loan is going to be 70 to 75%. If it's an investment loan, maybe you can get 80. We will typically ask the seller to hold somewhere between 30 and 35% in paper in a second position at a de minimis interest rate, typically 4 to 5%. Typically, we ask them to accrue it, and we will then go to our first mortgage lender and ask them to write a first mortgage. Because the first mortgage is smaller than typical, it's not as highly leveraged, they're apt to do it. We have about 40 different lenders that we've done deals with that don't care. And when a new student comes in, we take them through the program. A new student who has decent credit, we help them form an LLC. We get them business credit, and we use the business credit card to get their equity.
Got it.
And you'd be surprised how actually not hard it is.
Yeah, because it's like an unsecured loan against your credit, right?
Yeah.
That you use to buy a property.
Yeah.
And then you can then use that as a collateral to refinance.
So since we started, since I had my first student, her name is Lydia, June 20th, she was the first student, charged her $27. She was on the Zoom calls for 2 weeks. We sat and got to know each other, and I got to be friends with her and close with her. Lydia now has 24 units, about $8,200 a month in cash flow. She started with a single family house. Her first deal was in Montgomery, Alabama. We tried to buy it from a wholesaler. She actually put me on the phone with a wholesaler, and he only had 2 days left on his memorandum of understanding. So I told her, no, we need to actually go to the property and do the due diligence, actually walk the asset and make sure.
How dangerous is it to close a deal without going to see?
It's very dangerous. Don't ever do it. It's stupid. There's so many deals, you don't have to do it.
Is this a common mistake that people make when buying properties?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you decide which coast, which city, which state to make a deal? Because
Good
Miami
question.
is booming. New York, I don't know. The US is huge. How do you decide to focus on the really greatest opportunity at the moment?
Data. It's all based on data, which is numbers.
Yeah. I know Walmart.
You have to understand how to interpret data. You have to understand how to interpret movement and trends. You also have to be able to understand how markets are and how markets expand and contract and how demographics work. And you have the Walmart effect. You have the Starbucks effect. You have the Target effect. Okay. So when we buy a multifamily deal, we have certain criteria that we will only buy under, and we don't deviate from it. Because I did, and I lost money. Every time I pushed and I tried to stick a square peg into a round hole, it didn't work.
Have you ever experimented with Airbnb units?
We do STR.
Yep.
We teach STR. We have some STRs. We so we buy with our students in the community. I just bought a deal in Galveston, which is about 2 hours from Houston. It's on the coast.
Texas.
I guess it's called the Gulf of America now. Much better. Much better.
Former Gulf of Mexico.
Yes. And that deal was a subject to deal. We paid $229,000 for it. We had to pay off some back liens of $15,000. And on an annualized basis, the property will cash flow about $38,000.
And how much is that like?
On percentage?
Yeah.
On an annualized basis?
Correct.
It's a 300% return.
What?
Well, it's
Yeah, because-
38,
yeah.
15, excuse me, it's a 2.5x on an annual basis.
That's extremely high.
There's lots of deals like that. That's the problem. People don't really realize that they're out there.
And the game of real estate, it's just about keep scaling. You start with 2 units, then you scale to 8.
Well, that's personal. That's personal. So
When do
Lydia,
you stop? At what point do you stop?
when it becomes a job and it's not fun.
How did you learn that? Because I would figure, and correct me if I'm wrong. So your mom gave you this book. You started doing your first deals.
So my mom told, first of all, she said, do you have any money? After I read the book, I said, Ma, I want to use some of these concepts. And she said, do you have any money? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, where is it? I said, it's in my passbook savings account. So I showed it to her. And she's like, how did you get all that money? I said, Ma, I sold. It's Miami. I sold. That's during the cowboy years. That's when the
80s, no?
That was the crazy times. There was a place, I forget the deal that David Martin built in the Grove on it, but there was a hotel. It was called the Mutiny, and it was the club to go to. And the Mutiny was a 12-story building, and there was a club in it. And I knew the guys that were the bouncers there because the gym that I worked out in, they worked out in it. So I could actually go there. And there is a scene from the movie Scarface where there is a big shootout. And that's kind of modeled after the Mutiny. There was, I forget who she was, but she was a big time drug dealers, a woman, and there was a shootout in a place called Dayland. I want to say
That's Griselda Blanco.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, and it's funny because my uncle had friends that were investors of his, and then one day they never came around. Miami was wild, absolutely wild. And Miami was only 300,000 people back then.
Yes.
Now it's 3 million, I think.
That's crazy.
And going higher.
It's really become the new, well, it is the number one financial center in the country. It surpassed New York. We surpassed Texas, I think, in 2023 for positive migration. So about 1,100 people move here to the state of Florida every day,
Correct.
which would be 11 times 362 would be 420. What's 11,000 times 365?
That's going to be $4 million. 4 million people.
No. It's it's 1,100 a day. So it's 400,000.
400,000 a year.
400,000 a year. That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That is a lot.
So you save that and then...
So I told her, I read the book. I read the book in a day. In a day. She said, do you understand the concepts? I said, I think I do. She said, do you trust me? I said, you're my mom. Of course I trust you. I respect you. She said, all right, I'm going to show you your first deal. I'm like, okay, where is it? She goes, it's over by the college. We'll go look at it tomorrow.
By Miami-Dade College?
No, this was Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
So my mom met my dad on a blind date, and they got married 3 weeks later. He was down here on a pass from the Army. He was a dentist. So she went to the base, and then back in the olden days, they didn't like Northerners passing the dental boards, so he didn't pass, and he went back to Connecticut. And my father's just one of the smartest guys I know, so he could pass anything. If he could do the New York Times crossword puzzle in a half an hour on a Sunday, he could pass it. They just didn't want Yankees here. And because it was a good old boy town. So she sold me this deal. She told me exactly how to do the deal, which I was going to do a light rehab on it, about $16K. The deal cost me $24,000. I had just enough money. I went to 10 banks, and they all turned me down.
So the deal was $24,000, and you had to spend $16,000.
It was
So over 50% renewal.
Three unit deal, three family.
It's a multi-unit already.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and it backed up to the college. And she said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this type of rehab, and then you're going to post it in the student union. The students will rent from you." And when we bought it, the rents were $250, and she said that you're going to charge $1,100 a month, and the parents are going to guarantee the lease. I said, okay.
You said the parents were going to guarantee the lease?
Yeah. And we used that strategy. I bought it. We fixed it up. I sold it. I made $108,000 on it within 6 months. And I was able to do my first 1031, which she showed me how to do, into 2 6-unit buildings on one street over.
Can you explain that? 1031? Because I know what it is.
So it's
I'm sure a lot of people don't.
It's a tax code in the IRS tax code. It's section 1031, and it's categorized as like-kind exchange. And you can defer your taxes by buying something similar. So you're buying residential to residential, office to office, retail to retail, industrial to industrial. And so I was able to take those proceeds, and I was able to put them into the 2 6-unit deals. Those were distressed deals. We bought it from a bank called American National. I can remember to this day when we bought it. I can remember the closing. And those deals turned into like a little piggy bank for me.
So now you have 9 units. You have the
I
original
sold
3.
I sold the 3,
Okay.
and we bought. There were 2 6s side by side, so it was 12 units.
Okay.
How many units do you have right now?
A few.
In
We
the
don't really
US?
talk
Are you paying
about it.
attention to something outside the US?
Actually, somebody brought us a deal on a big piece of land in Mexico, and I'm trying to get my head around it. I don't think I want to be involved in the deal. They asked us to be the KP and the face of the deal, but I just don't think I have the time to bring my knowledge base up to speed. I mean, I would do something in like Tulum or Mexico City. This deal's outside of Mexico City. The city starts with a K. I just got the deal yesterday.
Quintana Roo?
Yeah.
That's in Cancun, yeah.
Yeah.
So would you do it with American money or Mexican pesos? Like, are you financing?
American money.
Okay, you're taking your money out there.
Yeah.
And what do you think of Dubai? Because Dubai is one of the only cities growing faster than Miami.
I think Dubai is a big bust.
Yeah?
Yep.
What made you think so?
Who's living in all the units?
Airbnb, tourist.
No. It's empty. Go to the city. Go to Miami. Go to downtown. Go to Brickell. It looks like Manhattan. Go to Dubai. What's it look like at 6 o'clock?
Depends on the season. If it's summer, it's going to be fully empty.
It's still busy here. Go to Wynwood. Go to Wynwood tonight. I couldn't believe it. I was pulling out of our lot. I couldn't believe there were so many people on the street. And we're on North Miami Avenue, right at the beginning of Wynwood. No. Go to Miami Beach. I went to Nikki Beach yesterday, and it's wall-to-wall people. Thank God I know the general manager. You know, you can't park in Miami. Every time I've gone to Dubai, I see it. I feel good about it. I like, the way people treat me there. It's clean. I just don't buy it. Here you have people who park money.
Yes.
And there you have people who park money. But here people come. Mm-hmm. So, you have the different seasons where people actually come here. So it's very different. And what props up Dubai? One thing. Oil. Period. And
nowadays,
who controls it?
Oh, the Arabs.
Okay, and what if they get a hair across their ass and you invested in their market?
Yeah, that's true.
Just say it. You're fucked. You're not going to be fucked here.
Have you ever done a deal there or never?
No, I've been pitched a bunch of deals. A bunch of deals.
What's a rich people's strategy that really keeps them rich, that the average investor in real estate doesn't know anything at all?
Defer your taxes. Plan and push your generational wealth to the next generation and the next generation. We don't.
How do you get into the mindset though?
Pardon?
How do you get into that mindset of transferring
You're
wealth?
raised
Because
that
it's pretty
way.
easy to waste it right now.
No, you're raised that way. You don't need fancy cars. You don't need fancy vacations. You don't need fancy penthouses. I indulge.
You don't need fancy watches.
I indulge in all that stuff. I'm sorry. This just matched the suit. It was blue, so it goes with the white and the blue.
That's a nice deal you have right there.
This one, every time I do a deal, it's a few. Yeah.
Is it Rafael Nadal?
It is. It's the Rafa. Yeah.
That's a few deals there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a small house.
That is it.
But a Casio keeps good time too, and your phone keeps good time. So it wouldn't matter. I could lose everything tomorrow, and the following day, give me 60 days, and I'll have $1 million in the bank.
Yeah, that's something that I wanted to ask you because, I don't think right now it's the same opportunity as before to build a real estate empire. Like you mentioned the great financial crisis in 2008. And then obviously, like if you have money or credit, you're pretty much guaranteed to be successful nowadays. But I don't think, and this is me challenging you, like I don't see how someone can build an empire like they did 30 years ago. I think the market has shifted.
Si este podcast está agregando valor a tu vida, suscríbete, dale like y compártelo. Es la manera como nos ayudas con el algoritmo a que podamos seguir expandiendo este contenido a personas como tú. De igual manera, si quieres aprender sobre psicología del trading, day trading y portafolio, estás en el lugar correcto. En un link en el description o en el caption de este video vas a tener toda la información para acceder a nuestra plataforma de educación gratuita. Bendiciones, nos vemos pronto.
Well, that's a good point, but I'm going to disagree with you. Good challenge. So after I did the 2 6s, I'll tell you really quick. By the time I graduated college, I had 58 units.
58.
And I was worth well over $1 million. I took those 2 6s. We did the same, applied the same principles, and we were able to actually go back to the bank and get a line of credit. And then I was actually able to go back to them, and they had 2 12s in the same market. And I just kept applying the same principle. I managed them from my dorm room. And
How? No internet. Oh, well, you had internet, but it's pretty basic.
A phone. I had an answering machine. I had supers in every building.
Okay.
I became super close with them. And what I didn't say was, when I couldn't get a loan on the 3-unit building, I called my mom and I told her, Mom, I got to get my deposit back. I can't get a loan. And she said, I'm making meatloaf. That was her response. It's like I wish my mom was still alive. She passed away in September of 2023 from stupid COVID. She would have lived forever. Everybody in my family lives till in their hundreds or late 90s. And she said, I'm making meatloaf. And I said, with potatoes? She said, yeah. She said, be home at 5 o'clock. I said, okay. So I drove from college and I drove home. And I went to school in Connecticut, and it was easy to get there. And she said, bring a deal sheet. So the sheet you were giving out to the banks. So I had the income, I had my rehab, and then I had the contract behind it, and then I had my rehab contract from a contractor. And I said, what do you want me to do with this? She said, just come to dinner. So I went to dinner, and my dad hadn't come home yet. And I said, Mom, what's your idea? She said, you're going to talk to your dad about it. I said, okay, cool. And she said, but don't talk until after dinner, because my father just wants to eat dinner. After putting his hands in people's mouths, which was his plan for me to be a dentist, because there's 5 dentists in my family, 2 of his brothers, my 2 cousins, and he had my whole life planned out. And I showed him the deal after dinner, and he said, okay. And he said, meet me on such and such a street in front of this bank, United Bank and Trust, at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to go in and get a loan. I'm like, okay, cool. Before we walked in, he said, what is my deal? And I said, I don't know, Dad, 10% of the deal? He goes, I want 60.
60.
I said, Dad, you're a dentist. You're not a robber. And he said, no, I want 60. I said, would you do 40? He stuck his hand out and he shook. And he said, but if you make money on this deal, I want to be your partner on all your other deals until I don't have enough money. I said, okay.
Was that a big deal that you had planned that he wanted to be a part of?
No, the 3 units. That was the first deal.
Oh, that was the first. Okay,
deal.
okay.
Yeah. So we go to the bank. We walk in, and he leaves me, and I walk back to the secretary to meet with this guy's name was John Morse. He was the president of the bank, and she knew I was coming. And my father goes and gets coffee. I'm like, what is he doing? He's getting coffee. You're just leaving me to this guy? So he comes out. We sit down. And he said, you have a deal for me? I said, I do. And I took out the deal sheet, and then I took out the contract on the property, and then I took out the contract with the rehab on it. And he looked at it. 3 minutes, he said, okay, I'm going to loan you the money. I said, just like that? He goes, yeah. He goes, it's not a lot of money. He said, do you have any equity? I said, I do. He said, how much do you have? I said, I have about $40,000, and I'd saved a little more from working that summer. And he said, okay, will you put it in our bank? And it was in a bank called Society for Savings, which was a pretty big bank in Connecticut. And he said, what I'm going to do is when you need the money, 2 days before the closing, you'll come and you'll sign what's called a 90-day note. and you would sign a 90-day note, and then he would give me a bank draft. And he said, I'll give you the bank draft. It'll be made out to your attorney, and then they'll cut the checks, because that's how it used to be done in the olden days. Money went into the attorney's account. He cut the checks for the closing. Title company, real estate agent, everything.
Sort of like an escrow.
Yeah, it's an IOLA account. That's the attorney's trust fund. And I said to him, why are you doing this? And he said, what do you mean, why am I doing this? And I said, why are you, making this loan? He said, well, it's a good deal. Your father asked me to do it. And I said, and that's all? And he said, well, do you know that we bought your grandfather's bank? I'm like, well, I knew we had a bank, and they bought my grandfather. It was this little 3-branch bank called Winston Savings. And they bought it, and we were treated like you treat a private bank client today. They just treat you great. And I kept on going back to him all the time. And he never even really looked at the deals. He just knew that I would pay him back, because I didn't want to let my family down.
Wow.
And fast forward to your question. If you take the basic concepts that we teach, and then we add a little spice, a little Tabasco, a little cilantro, we just spice it up a little bit, we make it a little bit better. So we took Robert Allen's concepts, and then we made them a little bit better for today, for the relevance. So Lydia's first deal was in St. Louis, Missouri. She failed on the deal in Montgomery. Then we tried to do a deal in St. Louis. We got it under contract. We couldn't get into the property and inspect it. And then we found out it had a fire, so we canceled that contract. Then we bought her first deal with $34,000. She put $35,000 into it. She refinanced it. She brought up the value to $152,000. She took that money out and she bought a fourplex. And on the first deal, she put a Section 8 resident in with all of our add-ins to our Section 8 lease. Her cash flow was $1,080 on this one little deal. Then she did the refi, and she took that money, and bought the fourplex. And the fourplex that she bought has about $3,000 in cash flow. She did the same principle. She took the equity out of that, and we found her an 18 unit. And in between, she bought a house. She's in Denton, Texas, so kind of Dallas suburbs. She bought a house, and that's how she has 24 units. And she made herself a millionaire since June 20th. Her cash flow is about $8,200, and there is a little hiccup with Section 8 in St. Louis. The rents on the 2s and 3s went down. They compressed by 7%. Because there's so much need, so they had to compress it. And because we're there, we've done 19 deals in St. Louis. We've done 114 deals in the community in total, about a little over 42 million, with all the same concepts. And these are all people that had no experience and really very little money and very little credit, but a desire to succeed. And I even offered Lydia a job, and she told me, I'm really flattered, but I'm going to pass on the job because actually that was in the car when we were in LA. We were going to Albert's. You heard me talking to her. Yeah. She said, I want to be a full-time real estate investor. And that's what she's become. And her goal was to have $10,000 a month in cash flow. She's pretty close to it.
Mark,
in
I think
a year.
that Lydia's story is...
So you can do it.
Yeah. What I hear, and linking it back to your story, it's like how important your network is. And I think, back to your bankers, you guys had a great relationship about trust. Like you were able to bring them deals that will give you the money just because they trusted that you were going to pay them back. And I hear the same thing for Lydia. Like she's able to be successful because she has you as a mentor, and probably because she has a good network within your system. Like would she be able to do it without a network?
She probably could do it without a network. She probably wouldn't do it as rapidly.
Got it.
And she would probably have some more hiccups because when refinancing the fourplex, we used the same lender that did the single, and we went back to them to refinance the fourplex, and they did not want to give her the leverage that we felt we wanted on that deal so that she could buy the 18 unit. And prior to the appraisal being issued, they actually issued the appraisal in a final form. And typically you want the appraisal issued in a draft form so you can look at it and dispute it. A lot of people don't know that. That changes the whole scope of everything. So we had to go back and push the appraiser to do a reconsideration, which they did. And then the lender, which is a really good lender, they came up to the leverage that we wanted, and it was able to give her enough to buy the deal and enough to rehab the deal. And she's in the process of stabilizing that deal. And that deal's in St. Louis too. So,
Mark, I know successful people don't really pay attention to what's my neighbor doing, but definitely we do study successful people in the field we are interested, like you in real estate. Not to be political, but in the business aspect, Donald Trump is famously recognized by being a very good real estate developer. Mm-hmm. I think you are one of the best people to ask this question. Do you really think he's a good or bad? He's overrated, overbranded. What do you think of him as a real estate developer?
you guys don't know this, but he's a good friend. And
You're friends with Donald Trump?
Uh-huh. And Jared is a good friend. And Jared's father is also a very successful real estate developer.
Yes.
Charlie. Donald's father was amazing. And most people don't like the arrogance, and I'll call it confidence, or some of the things that Donald does and says. But I will tell you that that first deal that he did, if you could read his book and it would tell you about the first deal that he did. I believe
the one with the Chinese?
It was no. That was way down. That was
In
Battery
New York.
Park. That was way. The one I think is Park Place. It's next
Yes.
to what's the train station over there? 42nd Street. It's 42nd Street.
Oh, that's when he went to Times Square when no one would go to Times Square.
No. No, this is Park Place. He put the deal under contract, or he put it under LOI with a handshake, and then he went to the bank and said, I have this deal under contract. And then he went to an equity partner, and he didn't have anything. And he convinced all of them to come and do the deal.
He has his name.
Well, he had his father's name.
Yeah.
Okay. And his father. So in New York, there are 3 major real estate developers that are in the apartment space. Okay. I've had pleasure of doing business with one of them. Okay. There is Richard Calico, H.J. Calico's son. Okay. His cousin Peter Calico, so that's Calico organization. Then there is the Lefrak family, and then there is the Trump family. That's it in the multifamily space.
Still up to today?
Absolutely. Well, BlackRock.
BlackRock.
Yeah, BlackRock. BlackRock owns everything. They just bought a stupid building on West Avenue for $1.2 billion.
And they pack it into REITs and sell it in the stock market, basically.
No, they run the world. They have, I don't know how many $1 trillion. Okay,
10 trillions.
It's ridiculous. Okay,
They
make their own market. Mm-hmm. They probably turned that into some kind of high yield bond and sold it to somebody in Ethiopia. I don't know. They're like,
That's
it's a
true.
great. Well, the reason they bought it is because you can go up 70 stories on that site. So you can take the 2 buildings down and go up 70 stories. So you could have a $3 to $4 billion sellout. So it's $1 billion hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have the money to allocate to a project like that. So
That's like buying a new car for them. It's like it's nothing. They don't think in immediate profit. they think in super long-term
Exactly.
wealth. And I will answer your question about how you mindset to move your wealth in from generation to generation. And for me, I was raised in a nice family, upper middle class, I would say. And my dad always drove a Buick. My grandfather always drove a Buick, and I didn't really know why we always drove Buicks. My dad grew up with a Buick, guy that owns a Buick dealership. So he was giving his friend business, and it was his friend's father's business. So my grandfather gave him business. And that's the loyalty. And I didn't I got gifts for my birthdays and so forth, but from my grandfather gave me stock. So he passed his wealth on to all of us.
Like stocks?
Stock. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because in our podcast studio, I have an army box with notes from my grandfather's bank. I have like 5 of these army boxes. And they were my dad's, and my dad, I don't know why I kept them, but they're notes.
When was your grandfather born?
My grandfather was born in the 1800s.
Yeah. So someone born in the 1800s was able to own stocks and then give that to his grandson.
Yeah. And which stocks did you get?
General Electric. He gave me a bunch of stocks.
And you made some money there because GE...
Well, I was able to take those stocks. So when it came time to pay for college, I didn't have to pay for college.
You had that trust?
My father took care of it.
They left you that inheritance through a trust or just...
No. I don't actually know. My father...
Because you have to pay 40% tax and state tax when they pass away, no?
No, state tax is higher right now.
It's higher right now?
It's 55%.
65%.
65%. No, it's 55.
For inheritances?
55.
So in 3 generations, the capital is gone if it's not wisely invested.
No, I believe the stock was always issued in each of the grandkids' names. And my father controlled it. And when it came time to go to college, he was willing to do that. There was a little money left over. And I actually did use some of that when I got...
How are you preparing your children? Do you have children?
I have 4 daughters. Each child, every time I did a deal, we set up a trust for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you asked, it's a great question because I graduate college, I take a job at a bank, at a savings and loan, and I get a job there as a commercial lender. And I figure out I can actually start buying from their REO department, and I actually figure out I can actually write my own loan. Got the board to approve it, and I started buying a bunch of stuff. But I buy a deal. I actually go to the deal $40,000 short. I don't even have enough money to close it, but it's a pretty big deal. It's 183 units. I took everything I had and put it on the line.
When you mean everything, you mean everything?
I took everything I had. Wow. I borrowed money from my older brother, my cousins, some of my friends, whatever my father could give me.
You were calling everyone for cash?
I was still $40,000 short.
Wow.
The night before the closing, I called my attorney. Still to this day, he does stuff for us. His name is Robert F. Cohn. And I told him, I said, I don't have enough money to close. I'm short. And he said, okay. He said, tomorrow when you get there, because the seller will be there, because he's there to pick up his check, ask him to help you. Don't tell him you need help. Ask him to help you. Ask him if you can sit with him. And we did that. I did that. And I asked him to loan me the $40,000 for 60 days. He lent it to me for 6 months. I paid him off in 60 days. And I was able to take that property. I was starting to stabilize it. And I got a letter in the mail from a condo converter out of Boston, and he wanted to buy the property. And I had lunch with him. He gave me an offer. He wrote it on a piece of paper. He said, Look at it when you get home. Don't look at it now. As soon as I got in the car, I looked at it. And that deal netted me about $3.1 million. I was just about to turn 26.
26.
26. And when I took the check, because I wanted a physical check, I didn't want to deposit it because I wanted to show my father. So I drove to his office and I showed it to him. And he looked at it and he said, can I take that check? This is going to get to your question. And I said, why? And he said, because I want to set up a trust for you. I want to take $1 million. You'll always be a millionaire. You can take the rest of the money, do whatever you want with it. And what did I do? I bought more real estate. I bought a house. I eventually moved here. This is 1986.
With the
I bought
difference.
That's 38 years ago.
I bought a
was
Porsche. I bought a boat. I bought my first manager. I bought him a Rolex. I bought myself a gold Submariner, blue on blue. I bought him a two-tone, and I paid $8,600 for that
How much?
Submariner.
86.
It was a 40, $8,600 for it.
Okay.
I bought it from my friend's jewelry store, Luck Pond, Green and Stevens, and then I bought the two-tone. And the young man that helped me run the property, his name was Rene Rodriguez, and I eventually actually opened up two companies with him. And he's Cuban, and I used his minority ownership through the Community Reinvestment Act, which is another way to buy shit. Okay.
Yes.
And one of our companies was called Casa Nueva, and another one was called La Comunidad. And we bought all the from the banks, about 400 units, and he's still a friend today. So actually, what is today? Remind me, Christian, it was his birthday yesterday. I got to call him. Birthday was on the 25th. So he set up a trust for me. And then going forward, when my first daughter was born, when we would make a hit on a deal, I would make sure that she got money. And then when my next daughter and my current daughter, so that, and I only wanted them to be able to have enough money so they could buy a home and not have a mortgage, and always have enough money so that they could live a normal life, okay? And it's funny because Sarah was born in 92 when you were born. She's 33, May 7th, 92. And she's a lawyer, but my kids are in social media. They have a food channel. They eat for a living. Two lawyers, I don't know why they went to law school, and their money grew. It just grew. It compounded.
Do you understand the value of a trust? Following your question, like, do you understand the value of what your dad was doing for you when he first set up that trust?
Sure. I mean, look, I'll tell you, I just got married on March 12th. I married someone I thought was my soulmate that I wanted to grow old with. And all of my assets are in trust. So I have a corporate trustee. And
Here in the US?
They're untouchable. US. Yeah, they're untouchable. And thank God for that, because she happened to be a fragment of my imagination, because she played a role to con me. And she's done it with multiple men. 4 that I know of, 4 that I've talked to, 2 that I haven't. And I'm praying for her. I wish her the very best. And I hope she gets help. But she's been like this since she was 19. She's from Ecuador. Smart girl. But just, that's her game.
So that trust prevented you from basically
Well, she
getting
couldn't.
involved.
She could not penetrate it. She can't
course.
sue me. So for a 3-week marriage, she gets nothing. But because the date court systems are so packed up, I think our hearing's in December. I still have her in her closet.
Wow. Mark, were you ever near losing everything, or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like-
I was going broke during Hurricane Andrew when you were born.
Okay, tell us about that. Like, how did you almost lose it all, and what was your mindset? How were you?
I've
able
lost
to...
a ton of money.
Okay, how did that happen?
You get over leveraged. You get over exuberant.
Yes.
And you'll learn never to get over leveraged. Never, ever, ever again.
You're saying, and that's a recommendation for, like, you're saying, like, never again.
You do not need to leverage your deals. When you are trying to come up, You have to do it, but if you calculate it properly and if you use the right data, you're always going to win. The problem is people don't understand the way to analyze data. And it's super simple. I could run 1,000 units on the back of a napkin, and I'm going to tell you what the NOI is going to be.
How often do you pay attention to the Fed rates?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter.
You make the same amount of money
No.
if the Fed...
No, obviously. If debt is cheaper, you can buy more. If debt is more expensive, you buy less. But the good thing about the 14 rate hikes during the Biden administration was super good because that's compressed all these new syndicators over the last 15 years to lose their deals because they know how to raise money. They don't know how to operate. They don't know how to execute. Real estate is about execution. It's not location anymore. It's execute.
Does the principle of buy when there's blood in the street?
Sure. We just bought a deal at 40 cents on the dollar. $19 million capital stack, we paid 8. Silicon Valley Bank failure.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. SBB.
We're buying 3 more, 832 units. It's going to be the same price point. It's going to be about 40 cents on the dollar.
Talking about that.
Just has to get stabilized.
Yeah.
And a little rehab.
So we're all millennials, but I'm going to bring another generation here from Gen Z to see what question he has for you, Mark. Okay, his name is Omar.
Great shoes, by the way, Carlos.
Thank you, appreciate it. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Thank God.
It's been great listening to you from the outside and being over there. I have like so many questions I want to ask, but we were talking about recently. You guys were talking about how you're losing money, and I was doing some research, and I believe the maximum amount it was like $3 million on a deal. It was like $3 million on a deal, and just correct me if I'm wrong.
That I ever made?
Yeah, that you lost.
No, the most I made, that was when I was young.
Yeah, I just want to know like how that went down. Like your worst deal, like what was the process? What happened? Was it over leverage, and how did you recover from it?
We lost some deals that were more speculation.
So you knew you were speculating.
Yeah. I mean, real estate is a game of speculation. So we did a land grab on the beach in 2005, and we put it together 2006. We went through the zoning process, and we had a bunch of hiccups. So we put a block and a half together on Washington from 19th to 21st Street. It's being developed today. We took out some high-octane debt from a mortgage REIT in Philadelphia called RAIT, R-A-I-T. And thank God it wasn't personally guaranteed. And when the market went so south, we couldn't carry it anymore. So we gave it back. Okay. I've given back properties to the lenders. Oh, no, and there's a proper way to give things back. Okay. In 92, we had terrible issues with occupancy, all in South Dade, Kendall, all the way out to 149th, 152nd Street, almost all the way down to Crone Avenue. And when Andrew hit, we went from mid-70s to 100% occupancy. Otherwise, I was going to lose everything. And my wife didn't want to hear about it because she was not super empathetic, which is probably why we didn't stay married. She was hot, but just wasn't empathetic. And her name was Susan. And then Andrew hit. The whole world changed. And then I did it again. After Andrew hit, we leveraged everything. And we put 12 deals under contract that were destroyed by Andrew. And I took them to Jorge Perez. And that was how I became partners with him. I didn't know him. A mortgage broker named Barry Goldmeyer introduced me to him. We sat in his office. His wife today was his assistant, Darlene, who was very pretty, who's still beautiful. And we sat, his office was on Coral Way. And we sat at his table. There were 4 chairs there. And I showed him the 12 deals. And he did this. He took 4 deals and he said, look, these deals you don't need me for. I'm going to show you how to do them. That was how he started the meeting. He said, these 8 deals, I'm going to do them with you. How much money do you have up on the deals? I said, I'm glad you asked. And he took out a piece of paper, by deal, what I had. And he said, okay, he called in a guy named Stuart Myers into his office, okay, who was running his affordable division. And I didn't know we were going to do what's called LIHTC deals, which are low-income housing tax credit deals on these, through a program called SAIL after the hurricane. It was just a federal program.
For you to buy destroyed properties?
To buy them and rebuild them and put them back in service. And he went through the deals. He said, this is how we're going to do it. And he said, I'm going to get you a check. I'm going to true up. And he called this guy in. And after I had spent about an hour and a half with him, he said, do you have any questions for me? And he took down my attorney's name. And he said, my attorney will call them tomorrow. And, do you have anything for me? And I said, when am I going to get the check? And he said, oh, by the way, would you like to walk out of here with a check? I said, we don't have a deal. He said, we're going to shake hands. We shook hands. He gave me a check. It wasn't a little check. And I went to Barnett Bank, which was my bank then, and deposited. And from there, I just started, we grew the portfolio to about 15,000 units. And that's the most I ever had owned at one given time, about 1,200 employees.
That's crazy.
And then I ended up getting divorced. And that happened in 2000. So she went back to Connecticut. So I had to get a home in the same school district. So I had joint custody and I would fly back and forth. But the good thing was one of my biggest lenders was an insurance company in Springfield, Mass called Mass Mutual. They were the easiest lender ever. They were a great lender. I had another partnership with the Ohio Retirement Teachers Pension Fund, which is, I think they're one of the top 10 pension funds, but through their advisor, which is a company called Huntoon Hastings. And they created an acquisition rehab program for us to buy debt and then go through the foreclosure process, end up with the asset, reposition it, and then they would give me a forward commitment. So I knew what I was taking out on the deal, and then we'd run it in portfolio. And then 97, we got offered to sell our whole portfolio, a company out of Colorado called Aimco. They're local, but they're in Colorado. They're a REIT, American Apartment Management Company. Okay. They trade on the Dow, the American Stock Exchange. Yeah. No, on the stock exchange. Yeah. There's no more American Stock Exchange. There's just the NASDAQ.
New York.
Yeah. And we sold them 7,700 units. And that's the biggest mistake that I made in my life.
Really? Selling those units?
Yeah, biggest mistake. Don't ever sell anything. Because I could have turned them into a piggy bank.
Ernesto is a big advocate for that. Within our community, there's 2 big questions that keep coming around. One is, why do you never sell stocks? And Ernesto keeps giving the same point. Why would you sell if you can always borrow?
Don't sell. I still have my Bitcoin. I paid like 18 for. So I'm not selling it. Why would I sell it?
And then the second big point that we usually get, and I think you're the perfect person, Mark, to answer this question, is there's this perception out there for people who don't understand investing, and especially when it comes to real estate, where the big question is, should I rent or should I buy? And I know there's a lot of nuances around an answer for that, but what's your take? Because that's a hot take. Do I buy? Do I rent?
That's a tough question. And I don't actually have an answer for that because it's a mentality issue. Because today, you as a millennial can rent for 6 months. You can move every 6 months to a different place. But for me, we want people to own a home because a home is where you create memories. A home is where you create a family. And because there's a program that allows you almost to finance your home up to 4 units 96.5% by the federal government. It's almost crazy not to take advantage of it. And here in Dade County, you can buy all around here with 96.5% financing, because you can buy up to 4 units, and a dollar amount is $1 million. I think it's $1,192,000 is the max amount in Dade County. Okay. So it's $1.2 million. If you can't find a deal that's 4 units that makes you money, live in one of the units, and then we teach you a hack after living there for 60 days on how you can move out without defaulting your mortgage. It's a little clause in the FHA mortgage clause that they must have overlooked, and I don't think they really care. They know everybody does it. So for me, my mentality is I want to own. Okay? And
Own for profit or own as a passive?
Yeah.
Because you just made a great point.
Real estate's not passive, okay? When people say I want to have passive income, it's not passive, okay? You still got to run it. You still got to worry about it. You still got to make sure. So, but I always use an example. Okay, you guys are stock investors. What can you leverage a stock?
3 to 1.
You can leverage a stock 3 to 1.
Yeah.
So I can buy 3 shares with 1 share.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I always thought you could only leverage it 50%.
No. It depends on the stock. So if the stock...
Yeah. Robinhood lets you do that. Charles Schwab. But the industry standard is 2 to 1.
How do I do that? I want to do that.
Margin account.
You just open a margin account.
No, I got to open a margin account.
We got you. You just open the account and you enable margin.
Yeah, because I have that with Fidelity. I have Fidelity. I have JP Morgan. What else do I have?
You can do it with JP
I have
Morgan.
Schwab.
And professional investors.
And that's just the stuff I don't manage. That's just the stuff that I fuck around with.
And professional investors get up to 5 and 7x. But retail, 3 to 1.
Yeah, it depends on the stock also. If there's high volatility on the stock, let's use Tesla as an example, they would only give you 1x or 2x.
Yeah, 2x, double your money.
And then for low
So if my
volatility
Tesla,
assets,
which is probably trading at what, 372 a share, something
3
like that.
something, yeah.
Yeah, 3-ish.
340, something like that.
Yeah, you could probably
Yeah.
buy one, like
Yeah,
borrow
it's
one
not
share.
actually, it hasn't done very well in the last few months.
You have since October. Yeah, this guy loves Meta.
I love that now.
It depends what you bought, but
Nvidia.
everything.
Apple is down.
I'm not really a seller of anything.
Okay.
So I kind of,
How many units did you sell at that point?
we sold 7,700.
7,700. 7,700
And
units.
how much of that was like profit you took home?
It was a lot of profit.
And a lot of taxes.
And
No?
and yeah.
No, because we took it in shares.
Oh, okay.
And my question is,
We took it in stock.
Okay.
what do you do after that? Like you sell, that's like selling your stock. What do you do? You just wait for the market to go down. You wait for '08. Like what do you do after that?
Too much risk?
And I was going to retire. So I retired.
So that's when you were 37.
My own private equity fund, which is the dumbest thing I ever did.
Why? What are the challenges though? And I'm sorry, Omar, but what are the challenges? Why would a developer not? Is it the fact that they have the ability to raise capital and then just go and try to make the business, or
when I did the deals, they were all given an acquisition fee because they had brought me the deal, which was standard. It was a fair thing to do. I skinnied it down, and they were all given a large interest reserve. We took out standard construction debt, and they were just never able to perform. And it was pretty much on average about 18 months before I took the deals.
And all right, so that was in what year you sold everything? 97?
97.
97. Yeah. So 10 years or 11 years after, give or take, 08 comes. So how prepared were you for 08 and like what happened? Like I really want to know like what went through your mind and if you were like over leveraged, if you had cash, like what happened there?
So 97, 99, we sold a big portfolio on Sherman Circle because we did a water development there with a public company called Oriole Homes. The family was the Levy family. And I was very close with Danny Levy, who was the son. His father was a chairman. And they were actually traded on the American Stock Exchange. And their money came from Michael Milken, Drexel Burnham. Yep. And their money was 12% money. And they were in the home building business, but we did a large scale development where I did the multifamily in that development. One we did, and we built it as condos. It was 558 units, and we sold those. But going into 99, 2000, we bought all over the beach. We bought on Collins. We bought on Meridian. We bought on Jefferson. We bought on Ocean, two of the best sites on Ocean Drive. We bought on 100 Collins. We did a project there. We bought across the street to do a sister project. We bought a site right across from Loomis Park. Today it's a building called Glass from a gentleman his name was Mickey Biss, and he owned, I don't know, probably 40 lots all over the beach. When 97 came, and one of the unique things was after we did the deal with George had the opportunity to buy a company called the Portofino Group. And there was a building going up next to a place called South Point, which was the first building south of Fifth that went up. And George, there was a guy, his name was Thomas Kramer, and he was the first guy south of Fifth that bought everything. And Thomas Kramer, for lack of a better word, was a visionary, but he had an affinity for raping women. And he got arrested on his third rape charge. He got off the first two, and he had to sell. And he was building this building from money from his father-in-law. His father-in-law's last name was Otto, the Otto family. And they were in the financial printing business, not, printing like prospectuses, stuff like that. Yeah. They were very successful. So was forced. So what Perez had to do was he had to pledge his low-income housing tax credit portfolio, and he had to get our permission to pledge it. So I ended up getting a piece of the Portofino Tower. And that's what made me realize that south of Fifth was everything, because we were over on the Venetian Causeway living. And we started buying there. And I bought 304, 312 Ocean, which is on the dry side of Ocean. I bought 315, 321 Ocean. I bought 101 Jeff, 245 Michigan. What else did I buy?
So that was all through the 2000s?
Yeah. So I'm keeping those properties. I'm developing them, and then, the markets are getting crazy. Then we get hit with Hurricane Wilma in 2005.
Oh, okay.
And the stuff on 304, 312, we had gutted the buildings. They collapsed, which was a really good thing, because Miami Beach is very unique because you don't just do design review, DRB. You have to do design review and historic preservation because of the Art Deco district. And the Art Deco district started in a very small district, and they just kept on expanding it all the way up to Faena, all the way up to the Fontainebleau, past the Fontainebleau. So it's very difficult. You have to get 2 approvals. And the market comes apart, and we're doing stuff over close to Lincoln, on Penn. We're all over the place. And the market came apart. And I didn't want to give those properties back, but I had to. But we were able to go back and start buying a bunch of shit. And yeah. And I bought a big portfolio in Texas in 2005 that had come unglued. It was 16 assets, 6,000 units. And we made a small fortune with that.
Would you say 2008 was when you made your like biggest purchase, or when was it?
No. I think probably the biggest deal I ever did was the Sao portfolio, which was 6,000 units. Who was the guy that bid against me? That he was we were in a final 2 with Houston Housing Authority. Alan Gross Financial, guy out of New York, obnoxious as. He has floor seats for the heat. When I see him, I don't even say hi to him.
Are you planning on building something bigger?
No.
The Shapiro Tower.
No. We'll keep on buying distressed deals, because the way you make your money is not when you sell a deal, it's when you buy it. Okay, and you're going to buy things the right way. It's a mentality that I can't pay retail for anything. Today's developers really don't care. You know, they pack in their fees, and they want their Ferrari, and they want their boat and their wife with new big and I think that's a good thing. I think
so. Personally, for you, what's the next big thing you are every day waking up to accomplish in the next 5 years?
So I didn't actually realize that I could actually teach people what I do. And in starting that, it's become truly my real passion. It's become an addiction. Now, what happens is everybody that we teach how to buy, I'll call it smaller deals, they go into our bigger program. And in the bigger program, we buy the deals together. So it's a way to syndicate our deals. We syndicated the first one. We probably don't have enough core group to syndicate the next batch. So we've been actually getting asked just recently if we would take some capital and deploy it. And that looks really different to me, because you need to have the proper organization set up. You just can't deploy capital and say, I'm just going to put money. Okay. And when people say, I'll give you this, you can't just say, okay. You need to understand their mindset, and it has to fit with your mindset. So we are actually strongly thinking that through. So we may do that.
So is it like a sort of crowdfunding structure? I don't want to say crowdfunding, but
we may do what's called a Reg A, which is another really good thing that President Obama did when he created what's called the Jobs Act. So, a lot of guys do Reg D, which that's how they syndicate deals to either accredited, non-accredited investors. There's 405, 406, 404, 405, 406, and they all have different requirements. But then he created the Jobs Act, and the Jobs Act created this thing called Reg A. And Reg A allows you to raise up to $75 million to non-accredited investors.
Okay.
But that's 75?
75.
That's a lot.
That's good.
And what Grant does, Grant Cardone, who's the master and the godfather of everything, is he actually raises the money. He'll tie 2 or 3 or 4 of them together. So he'll raise $300 million.
That's crazy. Yep.
And he just did his last deal where he bought a deal up in Melbourne. I know the property.
Florida?
We didn't bid on it, which we're actually did some deals up in Satellite Beach. And he combined it with crypto. to push the return.
Okay.
Do you know A-Rod?
I have had the pleasure of meeting A-Rod. He's very tall. He's very handsome. And I got to say hello and take a picture with him.
Yeah.
So I don't really know him. So, but he's a smart investor.
He is.
Yeah, he's got about 15,000 units probably.
Here in Florida, he has a lot.
Yeah.
So I have a question because we have a lot of people like watching. They're like really just getting started. So it's different questions, but how much money do you really need to have to start in real estate?
You don't need any money.
Zero.
No. You just need to know how to find the right deal and go out and put it together.
Like you could start with wholesaling, for example, that you need zero down. So then there's a question like how important is then like the skills? Which skills then do you need?
The skills are pretty simple. You need to be driven, and you need to be focused, and you need to be open to understanding concepts that are going to teach you how to take yourself from one level to another level. And you also have to be able to not care if somebody says no to you.
So from a 1 to 10, like how important is sales or persuasion?
Well, you can learn sales. What you can't learn is the innate ability to never give up. And you need to have that drive and that motivation, because if you guys are trading and you're trading stocks, then you don't always have good days. And you need to be able to realize that through the bad days, you get more out of the bad days than you get out of the good days.
Yeah.
You learn more when you lose than when you win.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's about being tenacious, and and it's also about being not afraid, because people sometimes are afraid to fail. It's okay to fail, as long as you fail quickly and as long as you get up.
In the internet era, you just said, don't be afraid. We live in a world where internet is pretty much accessible for absolutely everyone. How do you cover yourself from a real estate scam? Like, is there a checklist that you will follow to understand that? Because a lot of people, and it's pretty sad, they do fall for like bad businesses. Maybe they don't have the know-how on how to identify a bad deal. Mm-hmm. So if you had to run a checklist, what are those things that you right away want to identify to just move off from the table?
So what kind of got me doing this was a lot of these fake gurus, these guys who got into the business, who have done, 15, 20 deals. I'm sure they're successful. I'm sure they made money on their deals, but they don't know anything. What you need to do is you need to be taught basic and simple concepts, and the concepts that you're going to be able to build on. So you take those concepts, and from those concepts, you build yourself a portfolio. So with a girl like Lydia Walker, who with her fiance Cy, now they're married, took every penny that she could muster together to do the first deal. And she was scared. And she decided she was actually going to go to St. Louis and be part of the rehab, which I told her, it's okay, but you need a general contractor. And she pieced it out. So I told her, pick a wall, write every discipline out. We'll do that. And long story short, she just followed the process and she did it. Now, she had tried to do it before. And she doesn't know why. Something popped up on her feed and she signed up for the course for $27. And there she was. And she saw it and she signed up. So there are a lot of guys that try to teach concepts, but actually don't do it in such an active way by holding somebody's hand. There are guys that are good at it, okay? This guy, Pace Moby, he has 14,000 people in his organization. The guy's very good. He's taken Robert Allen's concepts, just like we have, and he does them a little bit differently. There's other guys that I don't think they're that great. Okay, you want to roll your keys on a Rolls Royce and say, "Oh, buy my course. I'll teach you Section 8." I teach you Section 8 in 15 minutes. It's the easiest business there is. It's not hard, okay? But people get enamored with a plane and a boat and and these things. It's not what you want. You want somebody that's actually going to be there on a call, coaching you, teaching you. So I know I didn't answer your question. There are people going to get scammed.
Yeah, and we feel you because we have a community as well. Like we are in the industry, like we are educators as well. We have over 15,000 students as well. And either way, like it's going to get scammed, like you like it or not, because they're going to get filled with their eyes with someone like flexing something. And it's really hard to differentiate from people who are real educators, because there's just so much noise on the internet that you have really to do like a deep research to understand. And because of that, and because of research and what we're talking about, I've seen a lot of your content. I consume a lot of your content.
Hope I didn't say anything that offended you.
No, no. I actually agree with a lot of stuff you talk about. But if there was just like one advice, everything like all your internet content will be like wiped off and there would just be like one thing left, what will it be?
Do something that makes you happy. Truly do something that makes you happy. And money's not going to make you happy. And it's not going to define you. For me, changing the path of another person's life gives me real. In Hebrew, there's a term, and it's I actually think it's a Yiddish term. It's called kvelling. Okay, it means like you feel warm inside. It's like watching your son or daughter score a goal in a soccer match, or watching them graduate or seeing something. And that to me is when I see one of our students buy something, and then I see them go full circle and buy something else. And then I see the tenacity when they're on the calls, and I'm on my calls with my students. So I don't know if Grant Cardone is. I am, because for me, this is what makes me feel warm inside. But to tell you, and this is to answer your question, so I get invited into a deal. It's a stock deal. It's a 504 for a company that is doing, they have a contract with Office Depot and Staples, and they get all of their returns for their computers. And they were raising money in this 504, and myself and my CPA, we invest in it. And we get our shares, 144 deed. So, but we get them registered, so I can actually sell my shares right away. I think it was 90 days before I could sell my shares.
So that's a lockup period.
Yeah, that was a lockup period. Yeah, and so it was in Fort Lauderdale, and it was called CPAQ, Computer Access Associates, and we would go there, and it would be like a flurry of. It was the facility was like 100,000 square feet, and they were repairing the computers, and there was everybody there, and it was all crazy. It was a scam. It was a straight up freaking scam.
That's crazy.
And I was the only one, because I took my money and I put it with my Merrill account. I took my shares, and I told my broker, his name was Peter Neville, I said, Peter, when they hit $5, sell it. And I said, execute my warrant and sell it. And he did. And I made 3 times on my money. It wasn't a big investment. But my CPA was saying, I'm going to wait till 8. And his name is Steve Akito. And if you guys, if you go in Aventura, he has a building and his business says Avenir. And he bought some of the apartments we were partners on. And he's bought about 25,000 apartments, and I trained him. I've trained 3 guys in the business. So they've all been pretty successful. And it was amazing because it was such a great concept, but it was just a scam. And he did multiple 405s.
Yeah.
Before we close, Mark, I've noticed something, and is that I think it's something to admire. You know everything about your industry. You know all the laws around it. You know all the tax breaks around it. You understand the industry in and out. Did that came through work, or did you study for that?
Deal after deal.
Deal after deal?
Yeah. Yeah, when you don't know something, you go out and find it.
And a last question that I have for you is, when I first moved to Miami, I worked at the Fontainebleau as a valet, right?
That's crazy. That's absolutely insane.
And I remember seeing Jeff Sofer come through the door. And okay, Sofer family, they own Fontainebleau. I'm new in town, so I don't understand the magnitude of it. But then I remember one day walking in Aventura Mall on the hallways and seeing Sofer. So I started doing the research, and I ended up to find out that
They
this family
developed all of
bought,
Aventura.
they developed all of Aventura before Aventura even existed.
Yep.
If you could develop an area in Miami from scratch, what would it be? And why?
Wow. I have no idea. I'd have to give that a lot of thought.
Quick guess. Something that you think it's appealing and can make a buck.
I'd actually like to redevelop all of Ocean Drive.
Redevelop.
I'd like to tear all of Ocean Drive down, all from 5th Street to 15th Street, and I'd like to turn it into a very high-end gated area.
I agree. I don't know about gated, but I agree.
Well,
it's crazy around there.
Well, they just changed the FAR law south of 5th, so the density is going to change.
Okay.
So you can actually go up there. And if you could do that on Ocean Drive, because you've got to change the mentality, it's not a club mentality, okay? You know, a lot of the dinner theaters have started to pop up, like Queen, and it's kind of cool place to go to.
Queen?
Queen, yeah, over on Washington. It's an old movie theater. It's like a dinner theater. And do away with all of the seediness and turn it back into what it was when one of the founders of, Carl Fisher was the one who founded Miami Beach. But when Tony Goldman came from New York, and he opened up the News Cafe on 8th and Ocean. And he opened up the News Hotel. And then Johnny Versace moved down and he built his mansion. And, these were mainstays. These were people that were building this out, okay? The Robbins family, when Craig and Stacy and Scott and their dad moved down here, he was a cab driver. Who knew he was going to buy these buildings? When they opened up their own brokerage firm. There was another guy, he had a brokerage firm, it was called Majestic. His name was Jeff Moore. He was huge in the beach. But it's funny that you said parking cars at the Fontainebleau, because I had an investor. His name was Richard Schwat. Their company was called Jericho State Capital. They were from Jericho. They moved to Boca, but Richard went to University of Miami with his friend Joe Cullum, and I can't think of their third friend, and they parked cars at the Fontainebleau. And when I was a little kid, Sammy Davis Jr. and Jackie Gleason used to perform at the Fontainebleau, and my parents would take me there. And it was crazy. The Fontainebleau is, it's an institution. So is the Eden Rock. So when Jeff decided he wanted to buy the Fontainebleau and then start building there, and Jeff has a sister, and Jeff is only second generation because their father, Donnie, who's still alive, who is really a super amazing guy, and Hank. So it's doable today.
Yep.
You can do anything. Their company's called Turnberry.
Turnberry, yeah.
Mark, it's been, I mean, I've been outside and inside the podcast, and it's been a great podcast. I was really looking forward to having this podcast with you, and I'm pretty sure everyone that was watching learned a lot. I'm pretty sure Gene, Carlos, Ernesto, I personally knew like zero about real estate. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like for a lot of real value for everyone watching. So thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And we're gonna be here in Miami this whole week. We hope we can spend some time together and actually learn some more about real estate and see about one of your developments probably. So thank you for being here. And I don't know if you guys have anything else to say.
Yeah, definitely, Mark. Usually, the content that shows off on my Instagram page or TikTok is about stock investing. And for the last 8 months, you have absolutely exploded. I remember you talking directly to Luke Bonmar in something he said about you didn't agree with.
I don't agree with a lot he says. And I have asked him to come on a podcast, and I've asked him to shake hands and make up. And I've done that with everybody. Grant and I were friends, then we weren't friends. Now we made up in California. We did a podcast with Eric Spotford, a bunch of other guys. If I'm wrong about something, I'll apologize. So I'm not wrong on Luke. He doesn't make $5 million a day.
I don't think
He makes $5 million statements a day. I'll go to work for him. I told him I'll wash his car.
But the good thing about it is that you are like adding value to the internet, a place that it's easy to get lost in, and you are balancing that. So keep pushing forward, and I hope we can become great friends.